How's it going? Here's a Globesville lecture for you, obviously by video, because why not? That's what we're all about. We're going to be talking about YouTube. So, strap in. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Donnie, looking to you on that. And here we go. So, we're talking about YouTube, of course, but I'm going to have a little roadmap today. We're going to do some do's and don'ts, case studies, tactics, and content analytics, and I'll throw in some web chat basics just because I think it's super important. So here we go, a little bit of do's and don'ts thinking about YouTube, and on here, this first one I love to do because it's such a common one of you can't promise things are going to go viral. There's no guarantee that, oh, here's the perfect video like our Harlem Shake that is automatically going to go viral, and we can kind of bet the farm on it. So much unlike Tom Cruise as Maverick, you can't write checks your body can't cash, and just because I can and it's right here, I have to play it.
Maverick, you just did an incredibly brave thing. What you should have done was land your plane. You don't own that plane, the taxpayers do. Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
What a line. Such a great line. And no reason to play that again. Going back, you get the idea that I'm talking about here, and that there's no guarantees in here. It's just doing the right things over time, in the right way, posting it when we know, letting our entire audience know, and that's the best way to guarantee success, I think, over time in a consistent way, not just hoping for a viral one-hit wonder. The next thing, apropos that, don't sell out. We all know unfortunately putting our cats on would immediately do pretty well, and a lot of YouTube views do end up going toward cat videos and baby videos, and so no matter how dramatic the cat, I don't think it's really worth it, though I will play this for you. Yeah, the value of that, pretty low. Even though a lot of people would look at it, this is what we were talking about. How do we find the balance of content that is actually worthwhile versus just going to get a lot of views? And that's the balance of trust and some of the things we measure. While it makes sense sometimes to have a spoonful of sugar, I think it's important to keep this in mind. We'll ruin our trust if we're simply a repository of cat videos. Though it wouldn't kill us maybe to have one Globesville minute by a cat, dramatic cat. And don't treat YouTube like television. YouTube is certainly the reason why traditional television and programming that is very linear will ultimately break down, because people want things on demand and as they want to watch them. You can look no further than things like Breaking Bad and certainly Mad Men, where you see the amount of views, and the reason why people are actually signing up on Netflix is to watch them on their own time. So while yes, it's awesome to have a program channel, and expectation is important that we have something out there every single week, every single day, ideally, where you can come in and find something new. We also have to acknowledge and build our systems in a way that people can find them after the fact and find content when they want it and how they want it. And so we're working toward both of those ends. But we can't just treat YouTube as though it's like, oh, and here's the next thing, and there's no reason to go back in time and look at other elements. So we have to balance the now with the archive. And ultimately, I like to say, do treat YouTube like an attention economy. Attention economics, this is an approach to management information that treats human attention as a scarce commodity, which it absolutely is. Your time is your most valuable asset, and YouTube certainly takes that into account by focusing on how they keep you on the channel, on the platform as long as possible, recommending new videos, recommending ways to keep people within their ecosystem, because ultimately, right, it makes sense. The longer somebody stays on the platform, the more they're going to click on ads, the more that they drive revenue. So similar to, I'd say, Facebook, but more extreme for YouTube. And a good don't here is don't ignore the data. It's certainly available, in our ability to react and pay attention to what's going to happen when we post videos and how we post videos. The titles we put in there will all begin to matter more, and we're going to refine this as we go, instead of just kind of being blind, doing the same thing again and again and never adjusting our strategy. What we do right now may be changed in a week, in a month, next month. I mean, it all depends on what we're learning, what the data team is able to come up with, and then help the content team hopefully figure out what makes the most sense and what to do when. But the worst thing we can do is kind of drive blindly, which we won't do. We're tracking great things, but that's the reasoning behind it. YouTube is big. Don't forget it. It's the #2 online search. The first is Google proper, right? The normal keyword search that Google has. So people search literally for the answers to their questions on YouTube. It's got over 800 million unique visitors per month, 4 billion hours watched per month. That's that attention economy at work, right? They're figuring out how to keep people for longer and over more time and repeated views. 72 hours of video added per minute is utterly ridiculous. So literally, there is more information being uploaded to YouTube than you can ever watch in your lifetime, and there's no conceivable way to ever catch up, which is just like a funny way to think about it. 25%, a quarter of all of the views on YouTube are from a mobile device. We talked a lot about mobile last year, last semester when we made the site mobile responsive so that it looks and adjusts properly to mobile device, but mobile is certainly coming, and people's behavior when on a mobile device certainly is something to consider when we create our videos. I don't have all the answers, but I do know as we pay attention to our data and we see how this transformation is going to happen to the platform, what is the nuanced difference of somebody who necessarily is watching on a desktop versus a tablet versus the mobile device, which is certainly rising. And another don't is don't confuse the sort of tactics that we talk about of when to post and blasting it out to our entire network, tweeting, Facebooking at the same time, and tagging, which we can talk about with ultimately the strategy, great content and engaging content over time. And you don't want to confuse the fact that if we always post on Monday this type of special report, it'll always work, right? Just in the same way that say in a football game, right, where your quarterback perhaps goes for the Hail Mary and it works one time, and they're like, well, heck, the offensive coordinator's like, well, let's just do this all the time. That Hail Mary worked this time, why not every single time? Well, what happens is the safety adjusts and really lays your guy out. Ultimately meaning that if you do the same thing over time, you can't expect to get the same results. Things adjust, people get used to it, right? If you have the sort of great email that goes out letting people know, hey, we have this ultimately huge amazing video that just came out, and you keep sending that kind of thing out, people get used to that type of messaging. So you really have to switch up the tactics that you're using to get people's attention. And as I like to say, use whole whale thinking. And what does that mean? Well, if you think of the Inuits, right, and when they landed a whale, right, these giant whales, it was a religious taboo to waste any single part of this whale. They used everything from the blubber to the bone. And I like to think of this as a great lens with regards to YouTube and looking at your available events and how can we possibly turn anything that we're walking into potential content for Globesville, right? We're sitting in class, we're walking around, we're in the cafeteria, we're interacting with other students. At any given moment, we can be thinking about how do we use the whole whale, how do we turn this into great content, are there ideas here, and just turning that around as a way of looking at the tremendous opportunity, as we are pretty much the digital media for NYIT and have a jump start on everybody else. So basic housekeeping that we do, and we have done a good job, but I think it's just good to mention the design of does it look good, where does it go, who's managing the account ultimately, and right now we talked about who's I guess it's Donnie managing it, but you're talking about who's the ultimate person helping to upload and guide the channel and what goes where. The content, what are we saying on this content and putting there? We can be creating playlists, which we can talk about. We have the main channel when you click on and what is playing immediately when you get to the page, and how does that also get spread around to our other platforms, obviously on Globesville.com, but potentially other places as well, because we can tie YouTube into Facebook. Marketing, where do people see it? How aggressively are we putting it across every piece of printed material, across other social networks, across the bottom of even our own individual emails, I'd argue, into signatures. We can think about this whole ecosystem, but where are we advertising the fact that, look, YouTube is the heart and soul, I'd say, of what we're trying to build, and the content there, getting views, is ultimately what our ratings depend on. So anywhere that we can think to put it is just good ideas. The measurement, and we spoke about this before, we're talking about how people are using it and the engagement. So it's not just the total number of views, but it's the total hours watched. It's where they came from, and we can track other elements as well. All right, so looking at a YouTube channel, here's some of the elements that we see. You know, we see at the top, there's this, you know, the channel name, and obviously we've got youtube.com/Globesville. Looking at this example for Charity Water, they even have custom tabs, so we can build in custom elements into the actual platform. Information and general links on the right side, and then of course there's playlists at the bottom. You can package any number of playlists, which is just a group of videos that can be your videos or even just somebody else's that you just want people to watch in order. So it's kind of like, here is, you know, an hour of program television that relates to our global minutes, or here's an hour that's just based around these types of lectures perhaps. They're customizable, and once you've created them, you can also embed them on your site or other sites as well. And it's a good way of, again, you can create and curate content in this way as we think about playlists. Annotations and overlays. So an annotation or overlay is this example that you'll see in here, where you've got this tiny little kind of speech bubble that you can put up over anything within the video to give it some more life and really play with the fact that this is an interactive medium. And at the top, you'll notice in there I've added this other layer where you can even make advertisements to follow, you know, a Twitter account or Facebook account, where people can get a little extra bit of branding for these overlays. It's probably, you know, a good practice for us not to just be, you know, putting in the, as we say, like, you know, the bug and the intro and outro, but really thinking about how do we make these videos interactive, because that's the idea. People are watching on devices that they can actually click out of. And so what would the outro look like if perhaps there was a choice at the end of it? You can go here or here. You can find another video. You can link things together in a way that you simply can't do on traditional television. And is really exciting when you think about the possibilities of it. Live streaming. Currently we use, and you know this, Ustream quite a bit. The other option here is, and we can begin to play with it some more, is YouTube also offers live streaming. I still recommend Ustream because I think it's a more solid platform, but good to acknowledge that there's a lot of channels out there solely surviving on this. And this is one example of the Pet Collective, which, you know, again, animals sell, but what they'll do is they'll set up these cameras just on things like, hey, here's an eagle cam. We're just going to pay attention to this one eagle all the time. And believe it or not, people watch it, and you play around with ideas, and everyone should be thinking about, you know, similar to like the Shake Shack cam, which just puts a camera on Shake Shack in Square Park. You know, people who are interested in saying, oh, I wonder what this part of campus might look like right now, might be an option for thinking about different types of content that we could have on an ongoing basis. You know, the kind of, as Professor Fizz says, the inning eaters, this would be one option for that. Google Live Hangout, you know, Obama did an address on it, and this is pretty much, you know, what he was looking at. You had 10 people in there, but it was also streamed into YouTube. So let's say we had a sort of like, you know, distinguished panel of people that may be in remote places. They would need obviously strong internet connections, but they could technically participate in a conversation with, you know, a celebrity-like person. I could imagine maybe one of our more notorious alums, perhaps, coming back and offering conversation with 8 students, and those 8 students could even be the Globesville people ourselves. They have that conversation, we stream it, maybe it's a discussion, say, about career choices in digital media and what their experience was. Great way to tie them in, get that video and interactivity going on. So let's get into some tactics and content. This concept, Blitzkrieg, is talking about this term coined by the German warfare tactic of lightning war, and made popular World War II especially. This was the reason why Germany was able to conquer France in literally 3 weeks. France had rolled out with a World War I strategy of the trench warfare, where you have these dug-in lines, and Germany instead had a networked communication army of panzer tanks, which they chose one point of entry and attack, where they put a whole bunch of force and weight in a short amount of time into like one area in the line. The line would cave, and the French would have to fall back, but they had to fall back too quickly because, again, these were a series of panzer tanks focused in one particular area, not like evenly spread apart. And they were using the first time that they had networked communication between them. And so all of this is just an odd way of coming back to a tactic about impact and breaking it down as a formula where we're talking about the action over time at which the action occurs, and it's amplified by the amount of communication. So what this looks like is we're creating a simple collective action, we're giving a deadline, and then we make, you can make a simple social interface. So let's say there was, I don't know, something we wanted to create urgency around. And in this example, this was the Sopa Pipa battle that was going on, and on one particular day, major websites such as Wikipedia and Tumblr chose to make it very clear that you should be contacting representatives instead of accessing their content. And they all chose one day, which meant they chose one day and a ton of action instead of let's do a little bit every single day, send one letter a day for 365 days, which would be annoying. If you send in different terms 365 letters a minute, that's like paralyzing. That is like, oh my gosh, why are all these calls going on? And by choosing one day for a point of action, they were able to use this tactic. And you can see January 18th versus January 19th, the total number of opponents to the bill literally triple. And it's a way of getting sudden action to occur. And why this is important to YouTube is because this is fundamentally, I think, on the back end, how these, when you hear about viral campaigns, and I'm being very careful with it, this is some of the science behind it. There was a lot of attention over a short amount of time, and it was multiplied by a great communication network. In the case of Invisible Children in the Coney 2012, this is the example in here where you can see that this attention spike happens immediately. It's not a slow trickle across time. It is very sudden, and that's because they had a large network of college kids that were immediately alerted that they should share because it was part of the messaging with as many people as possible and drive up the total number of comments, likes, and interactions on the actual video, which helped it get up into that sort of second level of activity on YouTube. This is sort of like base level, but there's as much activity and interaction as you can get with that initial video push within the first 48 hours. As a general rule, the first 48 hours is the most important for determining, is this something that is immediately viral? It's not that it can't go viral later or can't have that type of spike later, but it's more likely going to happen in that first 48 hours where YouTube's algorithms are saying, and they're dumb, right? They're saying, well, what's important right now? What is the most popular thing we can put up with regard to this piece of content? And so this are the video stats for the, you can see 96 million views that happened, and most of them happened within a wildly short amount of time in that initial attention spikes. So the elements behind this were recruiting a team that cares. So we gave them goals, gave them purpose, gave them honorary title. And so the goals for the Invisible Children crew was we have to get this into X number of views in this amount of time. It's super important to the cause, right? That's the purpose. More people that know about Coney. The whole point of it was the purpose of this is to make him famous, and you can only make him famous by sharing it. And honorary title is sort of the you are the special advisors to, you're the exclusive inside group. But we're thinking about who are and who can be this inner circle of people that would care enough to share on occasion videos like this that were we knew really important to Globesville and could be passed around. And here's a basic pyramid of considering there are people that care a lot and there's people that care a little, and fundamentally it just makes sense. You ask more from the people who care more. Give them a special title and say, look, we need you for this purpose. Here's your title, and this is our ultimate goal. You guys are working with us. So one option may be of thinking about recent alumni that we can rope in as like meaningful members of a Globesville, whatever, alumni team that would be more engaged, but with certain expectations, such as sharing with other people and networks. So let's dig in a little bit more just to the algorithm. I don't want people to go to sleep, so stand up, jump around if you need to. Here are the elements in order of importance. Right now it's time watched and view count, the likes and favorites, and then interactions over the time and topic that we're talking about. So the time watched, it's not just total number of views, YouTube actually cares about the total amount of time that somebody has spent in aggregate watching it. So if somebody just watches it for 1 second and it goes up by a view, it's not as good as if they watched the whole entire thing, which is they're measuring at different intervals to see if you're still engaged in watching the video, or if you've left. So you really have to actually watch the whole entire thing, or at least past 3/4 where they have this random marker. Total view count matters as well, but not quite as much as, again, the time watched, because it's the attention economy. They want to promote things that people watch more of. So likes and favorites and comments, interactions come up next, and these are just people that, you see if people are interacting with the content. That's a good thing. That's a signal that they like it. And then if you're thinking about getting up into that second flow of traffic into what's actually being watched more regularly on YouTube, it's with regard to how long ago was this posted. Is this a really old piece of content and it's going to have a little bit more drag to it, or is this something new? And then the topic, right? What is this particular keywords we're talking about? Is it something that is hyper relevant to right now, something that's going on? Maybe we're talking about Snowden, maybe we're talking about Syria, maybe we're talking about other popular hashtags and tags that people search for on YouTube. And then it's saying, how relevant is this to a recent search? How relevant is it to a recent video that has popped up? So understanding the basics behind the algorithm help us understand that creating better content that people are going to watch more of, and it's giving them a reason to maybe even watch to the end matters, and encouraging them to like and interact with the video itself has its benefits as well. These are also fundamental things that I think our own team can be doing. When you think about why is it important to like and favorite, well, because if we do that as our own team, and we've got a group of 15 plus people, we can generate that sort of initial bump into the traffic and really help cheat the system a little bit and aggregate and get us into the aggregated flow of other people's conversations and topics. So in attention economy, this is an example of the Puppy Bowl that was streamed, and this is a really interesting idea of how the folks at Animal Planet were able to capitalize on the Super Bowl and just putting again cute pets out there, but they got a lot of attention for free because they kind of rode on the backs of another popular event, the Super Bowl, and now really just turned it into a pretty great platform for at least gaining a lot of attention and awareness for it. So this sort of hijacking and creativity can be done around other people's events, and thinking about how we can create content around that is one idea. At DoSomething.org, where I spent quite a bit of time building up the channel and some of this strategy, there were oftentimes public service announcements that would go on. We have celebrities go in, but we'd also capture the outtakes, and more frequently than not, as you're probably able to guess, the outtakes outperform the original PSA, but still communicated in the same sense. It still communicated the idea of, hey, don't text and drive, but in a more funny way. We were able to add links and elements like that. So there is something to be said for that spoonful of sugar. We can still have a serious report and then have a separate video later that has bloopers of that report linking to the same value of what we were talking about, because it's just another way of having that conversation. On a more serious side, we also did a dramatization of an event that happened, the Chris Brown-Rihanna incident, where we actually had college students go in and create a reenactment based on the police report, and then in order to promote this stat that 1 in 3 teens are going to be abused physically, emotionally, or online through an actual relationship. And in doing this, we were sending out bracelets, one blue, 2 black, but it all harnessed the energy behind this video, which got a tremendous amount of attention, got picked up by Oprah and CNN and a number of others, was copied and downloaded many times as it was put into different reports. Again, you see that spike down there at the bottom. This was not like a slow trickle. This happened very, very quickly, literally within a month of putting this video up, but multiple days after posting it, it really struck a nerve because nobody else had done it. It was a dramatization film for $20 and ended up receiving well over millions of views for the work we did. So thinking about how we can translate different world events and how to do, this type, in this case, was a dramatization, and put that on YouTube with a call to action and purpose behind it. Meme writing, Harlem Shake, you were all familiar with as we did part of that, but it would be nowhere near as effective had we done it right now. You can see down there on the bottom right that this curve happened all of a sudden, where a bunch of people were doing this sort of copycatting Harlem Shake videos, which then you're able to run that play, right? This is something people are searching for. They're looking for this topic, and then suddenly you can brand it and put it out there. And so this was one particular one that Do Something did, but you're very familiar with it. But that was what was going on, kind of this idea of meme writing. Here's another case study of looking at with Kenya Wildlife Trust. Last summer, I went to Kenya. We were able to see some amazing things out there in the wilderness. And this, you see this picture kind of changed. That lion was literally right in front of us. And this idea that there's amazing landscape, amazing group called the Kenya Wildlife Trust, but they have this area called the Masai Mara, and it has got such incredible resources in their backyard, but they're not leveraging the whole whale. They're not using all of the potential of it. And what I mean by that is creating these videos of their animals and their natural habitat is pretty incredible. The video we ended up taking there was this one of hyenas where they slowly surrounded, and it was pretty intense, they slowly surrounded this baby Cape buffalo with its mother trying to defend it, and eventually chased off the mother buffalo and killed the baby buffalo. But aside from being like a pretty intense bit of video, I posted it online and tagged it appropriately, right, with relevant tags such as safari, hyena, and this other element, nature kill, which is another topic. After researching, I found people doing that. The category here were pets and animals. Put a title that was a bit kind of like, I'd say, enticing, right? This like hard to watch. It sounds a little cheesy to add in the title, but it's also like a challenge. People are like, oh yeah, I want to watch. I don't want to watch, but I want to watch something like that. So playing around with the title, which is alongside your thumbnail, ultimately what somebody is using to choose whether or not to watch your video. So really thinking a lot about how you're almost making your title like an advertisement was important in this case. The results, which were helped, I think, by the fact that it started showing up in these relevant videos. You see, as soon as the video is done, relevant videos show up, and also on the right side as well, it shows up for these other relevant videos that come up. At this point, it's actually now over 1.2 million views that have happened for it. And what's also great is we were able to put ads on it, and it's raised at this point over $1,500 for the organization. Also got picked up by National Geographic after it was on there. But this is something that the Kenya Wildlife Trust can do now over and over if they chose to add more videos around what's in their backyard. So I don't anticipate Globesville necessarily going on safari soon, but there's something to be said. If you're seeing something amazing happening, and we're all open to this idea that this could be done with a mobile phone, and we're able to put it up there, there may be opportunities to capture amazing things going on just around in our own backyards, on vacations as we travel around. And really, I'd love to get to the point where everyone was thinking with this mindset. There's another case study around the Octarium, just around talking about political issues and talking about, in this case, was a nonprofit, singing choral group that is out in the Midwest, and it was trying to explain why, why it's important to buy art. And I encourage you to watch it. I may or may not put it into this video, but if not, it's right here in Octarium. They, in this video, use a tool called extranormal.com, which is a pretty cool site that I encourage you to all check out. Let's see if I can get it to pop up here. So on Extra Normal, it allows you to use these little animated characters to have a conversation. We played around with a little bit on Globesville last year, where we made a dramatization, but it's a good way of having these really funny conversations on sometimes harder
I love
topics.
your choral group, Octavius.
Thank you.
I would like to come to your next concert. Can you hook me up with complimentary tickets?
I'm glad you are interested in our music. Ticket sales are an important part of our funding. I would prefer it if you would purchase a ticket.
Okay. But they are expensive. I could go see Harry Potter Deathly Hallows instead.
Yes. I suppose you could.
Why are tickets so
So you get where that goes. It continues to talk about these ticket sales and why it's important to buy tickets and support a choral group, and that you have to pay it. And it's a hard conversation, but it ends up getting them 76,000 views, which is really great. The Young Turks, which is a great network. It's actually the largest online show with over, I think it's 1 billion views and counting. They have these hosts. They're pretty young, talking about news and world events, and so they're taking this other YouTube videos out there and then having commentary that runs on top of it. It's a pretty standard format, but one that we can certainly copy for our weekly reviews and something to take a look at as a great case study. Some other quick content ideas we can be thinking of, things that are, I think we've already started with educational. I talked about amazing and shocking, such as that sort of footage you don't expect. There's animated dialogue, which you can have, like the extra normal. We can have responsive to the audience type of thing. So, kind of send in your questions to us, and we will, reply back to you on YouTube with, next week's announcement. Not maybe going as far as the Old Spice commercials that had this. Tweet at us and we're going to respond with video, but it's a way of engaging the audience and having responsive videos coming out. Meme writing, identifying when the opportunity comes up. You can't predict when it's going to happen, but there's certainly all the time yet another crazy fad going around, and we can make it relevant. It may be a good idea. How-to videos, if we're thinking about the Globesville as something that is thinking about how do we harness alumni content. They could be giving how-tos for how to interview for your next internship, or things I wish I would have known, and these can be helpful resources actually to not only our current audience, but also maybe even to high school. Like, we could have content on our side of like how to approach a college, or how I got into NYIT, to talk about these different world experiences and relevant to our community. Crazy other ideas are, you can do choose your own adventures, where you make decisions based on which way you click on a video, and have another video all set up for that, kind of like those choose your own adventure books. Exclusive interviews, which I think is on our mind. We can do live observation of a given area on campus, and then we can also do reviews. We can do reviews of other videos, other movies, sports, whatever it may be, or our own thing, by taking little snippets of other people's YouTube, pulling those down, and then creating our own video around it, similar to this. I could have a video playing right here and then commenting on it. All about adding value, right? How do we think about all of these types of content as adding value to the people that want to pay attention and listen to us? Inside of Google's YouTube here, we have a great series of available reports that we can look at demographics, we can look at views, we can look at the traffic sources where they came from, male-female breakdowns. We can search by geography and see which regions are watching us, and do that type of filtering as well. Here's a look at, even you can see if it was watched by an embedded player, which means it was embedded on our site. We can get those views, versus was it looked at and viewed on a mobile device? Do we over-index or under-index for this? We can look at if there's any other partner websites or other parts of NYIT even that have picked up this video. And then even within an individual video, we can look at where the audience retention works, which is amazing. Imagine traditional TV, they were never sure when somebody would necessarily stop watching, or would tune out necessarily. The best they had was these Nielsen families, which say, yeah, this is the box in our room, but ultimately Google can tell us exactly down to the second where people are dropping off. And to decide whether or not someone is going to watch a whole series of things, they're deciding in the most important range of that first 15 seconds, whether or not they're going to be watching for a longer period of time. So keeping that in mind as we create our videos, what is that sort of teaser that I'm going to tell you right now? And it sounds crazy to have to tease your own video, but someone needs to, especially once it's going past a couple minutes, decide whether or not they're going to be in here. On this, I'm going to tell you this, this, and this, and at the end, why you should stay away from this dreaded site that we'll tell you at the end. And only if you watch at the end will we give it away. And that can, in the same way we see it a bunch of times, teasers to keep people coming back from commercial breaks. The same thing holds true just in this beginning window where you can see the people dropping off in this video in particular. All right, so let's go into some web chat basics, since this is basically like a web chat. Our first one, I think it's important to have business on top, where people are judging you by what they can see right here. So as we're having like maybe like an interview with somebody and we're doing it by web chat, we're thinking about what this looks like, but not only here, but what's behind me, right? If behind me I have, you know, my old dirty laundry or some terrible thing behind me, that's not going to be very good. That doesn't, you know, present very well. So it's also what you're wearing, but also what's behind you. The lighting is super important. You know, you don't want to be backlit here, and this is the same rule that, you know, the other professors are telling us as well. But you can literally see what will happen if we go up like this, right? And this is what's in the background. Suddenly you're overwashed, and you know it doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to put this back so it's appropriate. But you don't want that to happen, of course. Voice, you know, you want to do an audio check and make sure. I think this may be a little echoey in this room, but you want to make sure that people can hear you. Yeah, so the video is pretty useless once there's no sound, as you can realize. I hope Donnie didn't confuse you there. That broke. The setup, you're thinking about, you know, prior to launch. You want to be debugging things, you know, literally like, you know, 15 minutes before. Maybe there's some extra software you had to download. Maybe there's some like tweaking. It's using the wrong camera or whatnot. So you really want to actually be testing it well before you're going to go on live, which makes sense, but sometimes I have to say it because I've had people not do it. What angle the camera is at versus you, and there's nothing worse than like you're in an interview or you're talking with somebody and suddenly you've got this sort of like awkward like upward shot, which is terrible because you can see all the direction of people that shouldn't be seen from that direction. So you want a bit more of this downward angle so that you can be looking eye level into the camera, which is essentially, you know, what we're talking about, you know, eye contact. If I had been staring this entire time here, my voice would have been projecting down, my eyes would have been down, and it's harder to connect with something. So you have to remember that these are the eyes. Sometimes people even like create a little fake drawing and put it up behind there so it looks like a person to look at, and you don't get stuck into like staring down. Also, obviously, if you're typing away on something, that sound comes up as well, and it becomes pretty obvious that you're distracted and not talking to somebody because you're typing on things. And then, of course, the Mom, I'm on a web chat, Mom, leave me alone. You want to have, as much as possible, any sort of outside disturbance minimized, actually just not even happening. So you're thinking about really blocking off a time where you can just quietly focus and talk to whoever it is, or if you're doing a recording like this. All right. Well, thank you so much, and that pretty much concludes our lecture today. And any other questions can be directed to Donnie, or we can keep moving on and send me questions that you have. Thanks again. I'm Professor George with Globesville.